start over here on this side. So I have a feeling we're in the Hotmail area, right?
That's right.
And who are you?
My name's Omar Shahine.
And look at me, don't look at the camera.
So I'm a lead PM on the Hotmail front door team.
Okay. And you've been on Channel 9 before,
It's my
right?
second time.
And so who's around here? Introduce us to everybody.
Okay, so over there, that's Aditya.
Okay.
And
I'm going to try to get away from the window because I'm not professional, so I don't have real lights and stuff like that. You know, but I got to be able to see you, and if you have the window behind you, I can't
It's all
see.
good.
So what do you do here?
So I'm a PM on the front door architecture team. I work on a bunch of our new releases and kind of the architecture and the beta release plans for launching the mail beta.
And I have a feeling I'm here to see something new, right?
I think you probably will.
And what's the name of that?
so
I saw it on all the doors, so...
the code name for our next version of mail is called Kahuna.
And who came up with that name?
So Steve came up with Kahuna. He's actually not here.
Okay. Steve who?
Steve Kafka. He's a PM on the contacts. He does contacts for mail.
Okay.
Kahuna was, how did we come up with Kahuna? We had a contest.
Yeah, it started with Big Kahuna.
Now who are you? There's some other people here too, so...
I'm Imran. I work on the inbox, read, compose, safety, spam user experiences.
Wow. And who are you?
I'm Pablo. I'm a lead PM on the backend infrastructure team, working on anti-spam and email delivery.
Oh. You're the guy I need to talk to.
No, that's not. He's not actually creating the spam.
No, but I could show him some spam that still gets through. So, so who are you?
I'm Reeves Little. I am a lead PM working on just sort of the overall user experience for the new mail data.
Wow. And
my name is Walter Shuri. I am a dev lead on the new version of Hotmail.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thanks for... This is in Silicon Valley, too, by the way. It's...
Sorry, show him the sun.
Well, you know, right now we have sun in Redmond, you know, which is why we fly all the recruits up in July and August, you know. But
August is coming to an end.
yeah, yeah. The thing is, you got to invite me back in January and show me the sun, you know. But
We can pretend it's January.
yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me out here because you know I live in Redmond, and so you guys are doing a new Hotmail, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the 3 coolest things about it?
You should ask Imran because he has the top 7 list.
Okay, what are the top 7?
Well, the 3 top things are it's faster, it's simpler, and it's safer. Those are like the 3 things we started with, and that's kind of what's driven a lot of the stuff that we've done. So in a nutshell, I think that's probably a good way to explain it.
Yeah.
And so we just started with nothing basically. We kind of sat down all together and we just said, you know what, let's just forget Hotmail exists, let's just forget any mail service exists, and let's just say we had to build something to provide users the ability to get mail. And how would we build that? And that's been kind of our driving factor. We all started with that. We said, let's just start with that. And so we haven't really tried to just copy over what Hotmail has or what any other mail client has. We just started from the beginning and said, what is what that users want?
So are we going to recognize this new Hotmail?
I don't think so. I mean, you'll be the test of that. It works with your existing Hotmail account, but it really is nothing like Hotmail. And it's, in many ways, it's nothing like other mail products you've seen.
One of my favorite questions is, what's the philosophy of the team? What was the driving thing that you guys kept in mind or put on the top of the boards or, you know, beat yourself up about?
So I guess our kind of unofficial slogan was "Pimp My Mail."
Yep. I saw it. We'll show the doors later.
So the slogan was really, you know, how can we make it fast? How can we make it simple? And how can we make it safe? Right? So everything we've tried to do is really organized around that. And these guys can, you know, give you other examples of how we've tried to do that. Aditya and Omar have worked a lot on making it fast. And they can really talk in detail about what technologies we used or how we've made that happen. So they're really the architects of making it fast. And then Reeves and I have worked on making it simple, and Pablo and I have worked on making it safe.
Right.
So this has really been a big community effort. And a lot of people talk about, you know, user-centric design, and this is more like user-done design. Right? So we got together and we did a dog food within Microsoft very early on. Like, we barely had features working, we had mail barely being sent, and we got people on it, and we got a lot of feedback. And then we started the beta before we had a bunch of the features ready. And then we've taken all the feedback, and actually that's what's driving the design. Like, we're not really in control anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I spend more than 50% of my time reading news groups and reading beta feedback and using that to figure out how are we going to do this. So it's like, it almost feels like it's out of our hands. There's like thousands of people driving it, and we're just kind of coordinating their efforts.
Very cool. And we're going to lunch right now, but you're going to give us a demo when we get back from lunch?
Yeah, give you a demo of the stuff people don't have yet.
Okay. And when will people have a chance to see Kahuna for the first time?
So
Other than on a Channel 9 video.
we're going right now. We're doing what's called a private beta or managed beta. We have a small number of users. Since this is the first time we've released code to users outside of Microsoft, we wanted to keep the audience as small as possible, just to make sure that we didn't introduce significant problems. That we could build a service that scales to support more users.
Right.
We're shipping another version in a couple of weeks that will support many more users and have more features, and we'll continue to do that. We're taking an iterative approach to shipping the next version of Hotmail. We're going to keep rolling out more and more features to more and more users until we get to the point that we're comfortable, flipping the entire site.
Okay. Cool. So, yeah, let's go to lunch, and then we'll get the demo later and talk more. Thanks. So we're just coming out of lunch. I thought we'd just show.
And we're all fat and happy now.
Fat and happy. But we had to pay for our lunch, right? It was good.
Better than the Redmond cafeteria.
It's true, actually. The cafeteria down here is pretty good.
Different.
And you got all this beautiful sunshine.
Yes, and this wonderful thing that's driving metal spikes into the ground for our the new freeway overpass there, and you can feel it through every building on campus because...
How many hard drives have gone out because of that thing?
None that we know of, but the wonderful thing is that we're all sitting on a wonderful liquefaction zone here on campus, so if a big earthquake hits us, all the ground will turn to water and we'll just drop into the ground.
Yep. There goes Hotmail.
Actually, all of our data centers aren't here, so it's just all the development will stop.
All right. Well, I lived through the '89 earthquake, and it was quite an event. So, anyways, we're going to turn it off again and go in here.
So what do you want to do demo? The architecture or the bootstrap process?
All right.
I love these posters you guys put around on your office walls.
Probably not very kosher. I think I don't know if Brooke would want us to talk about it. That's just something to motivate ourselves, something to kind of capture the essence of Kahuna in a sentence.
Cool.
So one of the things we did actually, if you walk around, is we put something like that on each developer and tester's office, and it talked about what they were doing, and then we actually had a stress meter, so they could move it to tell us how stressed they are. So that way, when we go in to talk to them, we know how stressed they are.
I want a little LCD to show the email backlog. Just on 1,300 emails waiting for Scoville. So you know, I'll leave the guy alone.
You can get a little thing outside.
Yeah.
All right.
20 tasks not completed today. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're showing us Kahuna, the new Hotmail, right?
Well, it's the new Microsoft Mail product, and it's a brand new service, and we're not really sure how we're going to release it yet.
Okay.
Whether it's going to be Hotmail or something else.
Cool.
So it's all web-based, as you can see. So I'll first show you what we have in the beta program right now.
Okay.
And then after that, I'll show you some of the new stuff that we're going to be adding in the next refresh coming.
Well, great.
So the new stuff actually no one outside of this team has seen.
Oh, I'm very honored.
All right. So
We'll see if the tape gets approved.
most of it will get cut. Wait, you can't tell people that. Okay, so
I didn't sign an NDA.
NDA? What NDA?
All right. So
So this is just a normal login page.
Yeah.
And
that looks the same so far.
that is the same login page.
Okay.
Right now the login page is the same. So this is, as I log in, it knows that I'm on the beta program, and it sends me over to the Kahuna front doors.
Okay.
So at this point, Walter can talk a little bit about how we're bootstrapping this, how we're getting everything set up there.
Sure. So one of the key goals of the the new Hotmail product is what we call the perceived performance. So what we want to do is to increase that speed, even if we're downloading the same amount of data. So on Startup, we have a process called Bootstrap. So that basically downloads a lot of the harness and a lot of the initial data that we use to render the page, so that subsequent requests only send back what we call deltas or changes. So on Bootstrap, for example, we download all your contacts, all your folders, a cache of your messages in your folder, and then also if you have a preview pane enabled, we download that first rendered message.
That's completely different than the existing Hotmail, isn't it?
The existing Hotmail basically is your traditional web application. We would refer to it as a post-back application. Basically, whatever click you interact with on the website, it goes back and hits your server and downloads a newly rendered page. But what we have done is built a kind of hybrid application where some parts of it are downloaded as pre-rendered, and other parts we download just the data, so that on the client we can manipulate it, and using kind of a DHTML techniques and
I'll just say it, Ajax technique.
Ajax. Sure, we'll just use Ajax. Basically using Ajax methodologies to be able to create a very rich browser experience.
Okay.
So a lot of the things that you do on the client, for example, if you want to jump to different folders, for example, it just feels faster because the whole browser window is not changing.
Right.
And so in the case of moving around from...
Well, let's see it. Let's see it.
So this
As you see things, explain what's going on here, maybe. Yeah.
So this is the inbox view, and so the first thing you'll notice is this thing over here called a reading pane,
Where are you?
and that's similar to the Outlook experience. So the main benefit here is as you move around, you can notice that only the reading pane changes. Like Walter was talking about, the whole UI doesn't change, so your eyes don't have to recapture what you were looking at.
Right.
And you can also see the speed here. This is how you move around.
Now this looks similar to the Outlook mail client, right?
It's-
The web page that I use at work.
Right. So it has some of the similar ideas, but it's more targeted towards the consumer market.
Okay.
And as Walter was talking about, a lot of the rendering is done client side, so it's much faster than the Outlook Web Access right now.
Awesome.
You can also use keyboard shortcuts to move around, so I can just go down here and read my mail.
Now, does it work with non-Internet Explorer browsers? Or
That's it.
Well, so right now the technologies we're using, we're primarily targeting IE55 and IE6.
okay.
That is the majority of our customer base.
So one of the things that we rethought was the whole spam and safety experience, and so we kind of threw away what we had and said what do we want to convey to users, because right now the model in most mail clients is just hopelessly complicated. People
Yep.
have to understand different technologies. They have to understand oh, this thing passed or this thing failed. So we kind of consolidated all that information into three types of information we tell the user: whether the mail is safe, whether the mail is unsafe, and whether the mail is in this medium safe area where we can't make a judgment either way.
Okay.
So that's what you'll notice on every mail has a safety level associated with it.
Where is that?
So it's right here. This is what we call the safety bar over here.
Okay.
So this one is a mail from MSN, and we actually recognized it, and we said this is a recognized sender. So we need
Right. So you guys have a whitelist or something like that?
We have various technologies in the back. So we use sender ID, we use phishing detection, we use mailing list detection, we use SMTP authentication, and there's probably a lot more that Pablo can mention. And so we take results from all those technologies and feed them into this logic to figure out what the safety level is.
So it's not you in the background going,
No.
oh, this email's okay.
No, it's not a 9-to-5 job. Everything's automated. We use a lot of the technology we use comes from the anti-spam team up in Redmond, the MSN team, and they feed us data such as they'll feed us phishing sites, so we incorporate that information. They'll tell us when links are suspect. We also take data such as sender ID, the technology that was developed jointly with SPF to determine what domains are. Take that information and feed it into the system that Imran's talking about, where we can make a determination at which level that message is. If we can't verify it, we'll downgrade it and tell the user, warn them that this may be a phishing attempt, this may be an unsafe message, and then let them add it to the contact list if they think that it is a real mail and they want to add it.
So like Pablo was saying, one of the really exciting things is that we actually detect phishing and clearly protect you from it.
Okay.
So this is an example of a mail that's actually not from PayPal, it's a phishing mail. And so what we've done actually is we've detected it and we have clearly communicated, and in fact we've hidden the message so that users don't perceive that anything bad has happened.
That's awesome, because I'm getting these mails all the time, and some of them are very convincing that they're actually from your bank. You know?
And so this is a fake PayPal mail. Now look at a real PayPal mail that came from PayPal, and we've recognized that this is actually from PayPal, and you say this mail is from a recognized sender. So for people,
that uses sender ID, right?
that uses the bonded sender
Are
program.
you using bonded sender?
So
What is sender ID, by the way?
So Sender ID is a technology that was developed but internally at Microsoft with some help from the industry, where what happens is when a mailer sends mail, they connect via a server. The server can identify itself by its IP, and so what Sender ID allows you to do is you publish out for this domain, these are the IPs that can send the mail. And so when we get that mail, we check the domain that it's from, and we can verify if it's from that IP list or not. And if it's outside of the range of IPs that they say they can send from, then we'll flag it as a potential spoof message.
Okay.
So, and we also go one step further, because one of the problems that people have is they're on legitimate mailing lists and they don't want to be on it, but it's so hard to figure out how to get off them that people just leave them in their inbox and just have to delete them.
Right.
So there's an internet standard called list unsubscribe, which is a header that can be included in mails, and a lot of the mailing lists include that today. However, we're the first people who automatically handle it.
Yeah.
So in this case, here's an example of a mail that's from Yahoo Groups, and Kahuna detected that it's a mailing list. So it says this appears to be a forwarded mailing list.
I'm sorry.
And then in this case, if I click block sender, it will actually ask me, I can let you do this. So it says, okay, it'll junk it, and it says if you subscribe to this mailing, click OK, and we'll remove you from it.
Okay.
And so what happens there is that when you click OK, Kahuna sends back a mail to the list unsubscribe address, and that automatically gets you removed from the mailing list.
Oh, that's nice.
And we have a bunch of safety checks in place to make sure we don't do this on spammers. But for legitimate mailing lists, it's a great way for you to get off it. And it also helps the mailing list because they're not sending to people who are not reading for them. And some of the other things we do is, now we figured out the safety level. However, people want to customize it. People want to say this is safe and this is not safe. And before we had controls all over the place, we've consolidated that into this concept of a safety bar. So if I look at this message, let me take this message. So it says this message from unknown sender, block or allow.
Yeah.
And so when we click block, we actually do a bunch of work behind the scenes. We move things in and out of the block list, allow list, everything. So you never have to worry about what your block list and allow list are. You just get a message and you say either allow or block. And we do everything in the back to make that happen.
Right. Now, I have an 11-year-old son, and he has a Hotmail account, and he's seen some racy email come through his system. How can you guys block all of that, or how certain are you that you can block that kind of stuff?
It's we're trying our best. I think it's a problem that we're getting better at. With technologies like this, we're kind of making it easier for users to understand what they're looking at and try to filter out a lot of that stuff. And we already have a bunch of stuff in place to get that out, including phishing detection and things like that. And Pablo can elaborate more. But we are catching a lot. I think it's a battle we have to continue fighting. And with changes like this and changes coming, we are trying to get better and better at that.
Hotmail today has parental controls, right? I set up a kids email version of Hotmail so that I guess, does that have a stronger whitelist on it, or?
It's so if you have parental controls, the child basically has an exclusive list of who they can receive mail from. So the parent can control who gets mail sent to their child, and that way you won't get mail from spammers. So you basically block out everything that
So
is
you
spam.
can add like grandma and
Exactly.
and aunt,
And it's yeah,
Aunt Miriam and whatever.
and it gets managed by the parent, so
Okay.
they have ultimate control on who the child can get mail from.
Oh, that's really cool. And is that part of the new Hotmail
Yes.
as well? Okay.
It will be coming. It's not currently in the beta, but
Okay.
it's coming soon.
Cool.
And then, so this is the reading mail experience. And if there's a mail that doesn't fit, all you have to do is either hit enter or double click, and we expand it. And then you can hit escape to go back to the normal view.
Oh, that's nice. What is that? Enter?
So enter on any mail, opens it, and escape takes you back.
Awesome.
And then, like I said, you can use keyboard to navigate. So that's the reading experience.
Wow, that's so much better.
And then, that's good to hear. It'd be bad if it was worse.
This is why I take Hotmail and put it in Outlook, so I can
So-
use some of the keyboard commands.
So then the creating experience is also much improved. So one thing you'll notice is the speed. If you want to send a new mail, you say new, and there you go.
Whoa.
And so,
And the editor looks nicer too.
Yeah.
It's more like Word.
And then when I start typing, if I want to send it to someone, you can notice we have autocomplete.
Whoa.
So it's autocomplete. As I type, it keeps
Now, how does
adjusting
it get that list of autocompletes?
It's from your contact list.
Okay.
So people who are in your contacts. And actually, I'll show you that too. It's much easier to add a contact now. I'll actually go ahead and show you that.
Okay. Yeah, contacts are important.
Okay. Let's see if I have an example now here. So we just have a link here that says add contact.
Yeah.
And all you do is you add contact. We parse out the mail headers and figure out what to add, and we just add it.
Now, here's a feature request. A lot of people put their email addresses, like on my blog, right? You go to my blog and there's an email address there. Can you make it so you can right-click and say add to my contact?
So you mean not in Hotmail but somewhere else?
Well, let's say Hotmail first and then everywhere else second.
So if it's on the from address, we have it. You can think about adding it somewhere else too. That you can click somewhere like this and say
That's
right.
actually not hard. That's actually not hard to do. You write a registry extension that essentially redirects the address back to. We had to support M3 to add a contact using URL, I think.
Yeah.
So it may be possible to actually just do that.
And we may integrate with the toolbar or something too.
Yeah.
Something like that. All right. So going back to the new experience.
I like randomizing things with
That's
feature
okay.
requests.
Like I said, we're not in control anymore. We're just getting these ideas and kind of coordinating them.
Yep.
So autocomplete is this. We also simplified it so most of the time you don't need CC and BCC. So we kind of hide them to make it simple. And then
It's also the same editor that Spaces uses. So
Yeah, it's really nice.
Scott Isaacs actually built that editor, and we're sharing it across the properties right now.
Does Scott Isaacs run all of MSN? I'm just kidding with Scott.
So Scott, it's actually interesting though, because before Scott joined, there wasn't anyone at least in the web UX division at MSN, who was responsible for coordinating code sharing and architecture across. And so Walter actually spent a significant amount of time working with Scott. And
Scott was one of the inventors of DHTML.
yeah. So he was
He's a real
he was a
nerd.
perfect person to actually do this job. And he spends most of his time working with the Spaces team and us, the Start.com guys. He built a framework that we're using at Hotmail. Some of the stuff that Walter and his team built is being used in Spaces and Start and a couple of other places, the MSN portal. And those two guys are working on PDC stuff as well with the Ajax, with the Atlas folks.
Yeah, I just linked to that on my blog last night. He's a real asset to
the
the company.
attachment experience we've also improved. We actually upload files in the background. So you can continue working on whatever you're working on while we load the file. So if I load a big one, let me see what the nice size file is. Okay, these are going to be slow. This is probably the biggest I have right now. You can notice that we actually say scanning and uploading, but while it's doing that,
I'm sorry.
I can continue working on my mail, and it's uploading in the background. So you can just, if you have a large attachment, you can just start attaching it, work, and continue working. And even if you're ready to go, just say send, and we'll just wait until it's uploaded, and we'll send the mail.
Okay.
So that works great for big attachments. We also save every sent mail automatically now, so you always have a track of what you sent.
Okay. That's a good question. How much space do I have to store all this stuff?
So people who are part of the beta, I believe, get 2 gigabytes. They start off with 2 gigabytes. The eventual goal is that anybody who gets Kahuna will get that level of storage.
Okay. Cool. That's
Okay.
a lot.
So it's more than you'll need it's more than you'll probably ever need, and for the majority of users on our site, they'll never even come close to needing that much storage.
What's the biggest email you can send and receive?
Premium users can send 10 megabytes.
It's 20 megabytes.
20
20
megabytes. Regular users can receive 10 megabytes, and then incoming mail, I believe we cap at the same as outgoing, so you can receive as much as a 20 megabyte attachment. Now I know that you are actually particularly interested in sending even bigger files than that.
Yeah.
We're actually looking into ways.
Most of our channel 9 videos are 200 megs.
Yeah, I think I talked to you about this before. I mentioned that email is really not the best way to transport files like that, because SMTP gateways won't be very happy with it.
Well, wait until you see our HD camera that we just bought.
You definitely won't be using email. You might be sending a link. But that's about it.
Yeah.
It's a download.
So,
Okay, so I'll show you some of the new stuff that no one has seen outside the team yet,
okay.
which may get edited out, but I'll show it anyway. So this is stuff that we've been working on. We're fairly done with it. We're just debugging it now, and it'll be available to the users, to the beta users pretty soon.
Right. Now, on the way over here, you were talking about this is the M3 release. when you say M3, what do you mean? Is that like milestone 3? or-
Microsoft uses this terminology for development milestones. So typically, you start with M0, which is like a development only milestone where they're just doing like infrastructure work or something. And most teams start with M1 and then go until a traditional shipping product might have 3 milestones, M1 through M3. Like I think Office uses M1 through M3, and so they may even use M4. We essentially treat every milestone as a certain amount of time, and then it's a convenient way of naming the current and next and the one after that. So you can sort of assign features to different milestones and track them that way.
Okay. Cool.
So this may or may not work because we push builds every day.
Okay.
So I haven't tried today's build, but let's see. So this is what we call our in-cluster. It's an internal cluster that can't be accessed from outside Microsoft.
Okay.
So we use it from inside. So the changes you'll notice here is that we're trying to kind of take some of the input that customers gave us and incorporate that into the product. So one of the things we got a lot of input on is that people want to be able to right-click and manipulate items.
Right.
So that's one of the things we've added is you can right-click on a message. Like I said, this is this cluster. Nope. That's not good. All right, let's edit that one out.
We don't edit here.
So it's
It's good. It's a live demo. You know, this is not scripted in any way. So,
Yeah.
so you're supposed to be able to right click and.
yeah, you're supposed to be able to right-click and get a menu. I'm not sure why it's broken into this build.
Okay.
It's, we may have to check the machine, Brian and the tester were having a conversation already.
Okay.
Okay.
The menu's not popping up right now.
Okay. So there are right-click menus that allow you to mark messages as read, unread, print, view, reply, and then you can right-click on a folder and rename and delete them.
Very cool.
And then we also added searching back in. So currently we only search through mail headers. We'll be adding the full search pretty soon. So if I go in here and I look for Imran, and I just say search for Imran. And so what we do is we create a search results folder, which is a virtual folder. It doesn't really exist. It's just there to contain the items.
Okay.
And currently we don't persist it, but in the future we're looking at persisting that. And so these are all the search results, and I can use my reading pane just like anything to open it. If you remember in Outlook, you get this separate window, and then you have to keep opening each message to read it.
Yeah.
Here it just works just like another folder. I can select things, read them. And
Now, are you going to add word wheeling capabilities? Like you type A and all that, everything with A in it will pop up?
We're definitely looking at that. We don't know when we'd be able to add it, but it's definitely something that we're looking at.
Cool.
And
Are you going to have integration with any other MSN services like MSN search? You know, would you be able to put MSN search results underneath, or?
it's definitely something that's been discussed. I don't know if we've reached an answer yet on that,
Okay.
but it's definitely something we're interested in.
Okay. This is what I was asking about philosophy, was how clean is the user interface going to stay? You know, and is there going to be pressure on the team to keep adding on,
It's,
you know, putting ads in there? And we haven't even talked about business model or ads yet.
I can show you an account with ads too. So that's always a struggle, right? It's because unlike Outlook, we have to make money via ad funding, right? Ad sponsored. So that's always a struggle that we have, and we have big fights on it, and we're trying to get to a model where it's easy for the user, kind of nail the basics is what one of the slogans is, one of the many slogans.
Yeah.
So we're trying to nail the basics, and then we'll add other things as appropriate, but not affecting the mail experience.
Okay.
Can you get the build to crash so we can talk about Watson?
I can. Let me just show you
Sure.
one last thing. So this is, just keep a close eye here. And what I do is I select 2 messages, and then I do this. And I can drag and drop it into a folder. I let go, and the messages move. So you can drag and drop things on a web page. And then if you notice when you drag it, we actually create a transparent clone, so you can actually see under it to see what you're over.
Very cool. Very nice.
And then you just, when you're not over a valid drop target, it has this kind of icon. When you go over a valid target, the icon changes, the folder highlights. When you drop it, it goes in there, and the folder blinks to say I got it.
That's really nice.
And so this kind of drag and drop hasn't been on any web page that I've seen. There may be some niche web pages that I haven't seen, but none of the main web services actually allow you to do this level of drag and drop.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that we've added that's brand new.
Yeah. Some close to one. Sorry.
So-
Got some noisy people.
So one of the things that we also want to do is we know that adding features and making it really fast and safe and simple is great, but we also need to be reliable. Right? People want to be able to get to their mail. So Aditya can probably talk about what are all the things that we've done to make sure that we're getting feedback and we're making it more and more reliable.
Yeah.
Sure. So some of the stuff that we did in this version, in the M3, what we're talking about of Kahuna, is we integrated what you might be familiar with Dr. Watson.
Yep.
And so, you know, when you're in Windows, an app crashes, you said, you want to send this error report to Microsoft. So we actually built the same thing into a web application. And so what happens is if a server error or a client error, like a JavaScript error happens, you get a link that says, it would really help Microsoft if you could send us this information that we can analyze it. So you can click send report, and we actually report the error back up to our central Watson databases. That let us, in each of our milestones, you know, look and see what are the highest customer pain points. Like, is it this button that when you click on this, when the window's set like that, then we always crash the browser or something like that. So we're able to cross-correlate and, you know, look and try to build quality into our future products and improve our reliability. And so, I don't know, it's going to be kind
There's
of...
a bug right now
Okay.
in our internal builds. If you send a file with an attachment, it causes an exception.
Okay.
But they'll actually show you the error
Oh, great.
mechanism. So let me see.
So yeah, as you can see here, there's the little yellow info bar that shows up that says, we weren't able to do this action, please click to report this error to Microsoft. And so what we get is, you click report the error, and we actually bundle up all the information about how the error happened, and we're able to go back and track it. And things like this have been really helpful in our beta too, just, you know, so our beta users have problems, you know, it's beta code. So they've been reporting a lot of errors to us, and a couple of our work that we've done in beta, we've managed to address about 50% of the top issues that the beta users have reported.
Right.
And so, you know, really trying to knock down the issues that the beta users said. As everyone said, it's kind of the beta users who are driving this, so we chose the issues that they reported the most, and those are the ones we managed to get and fix.
Are you going to have a link on the UI to send an email to the team or anything like that, saying, "Hey, you guys don't have this feature"? Or...
So for the beta itself, on the Today page, the Today tab, which you can see right there, we have, for users who are part of the beta, we allow them to actually directly submit feedback back to the team. And they're able to use the connect.microsoft.com site to submit bug reports, submit feedback, and that's where they interact with us on newsgroups. So just to give you an example, in the about 4 weeks we've been in beta, we've received about 800 beta bug reports. And of that, about 270 were new and unique things that we haven't actually found in our team on our own. And so we actually use those, and those go directly into our own product database, our bug database, and all of the team members, the PMs here, triage and assign them to developers and things like that. So the beta process is
keep in mind,
closed.
we treat a bug isn't something that makes the system just shut down.
Right, the bug, like, for
it
example,
could be a misspelling.
exactly.
It could be,
So an example of a bug is like, oh, your spacing is inconsistent when you have this email here. And so we're like, okay, so we know how to fix that bug, and we resolved it. And there are obviously bugs like, hey, I clicked this button and my browser fell apart. And so we have bugs on both sides of the spectrum, and the beta testers have helped report all those to us too.
very cool.
So
Anything else that's cool to check out? What are the top 3 things that you want beta testers to check out or customers when they first get it?
I think the first thing that makes the biggest impact is the reading pane, because it makes your task of reading the mail so much better.
Yeah.
Because you can just go down and read it, you don't have to open messages, and it takes you fewer clicks. The second thing, I think, is the speed, because you want to go through your mail quickly, you want to read it quickly, you don't want to have to wait for pages to load. And speed is kind of a multifaceted thing. One is just getting the data quickly, one is not changing the UI so your eyes don't have to readjust, and one is just reducing the number of steps taken to complete a task.
Yeah.
So one of the things we've done in downloading attachments.
See, this is the kind of stuff my son gets
we
on.
have to edit
I'm not
that out.
actually subscribed for that.
That's actually one of our group program managers. He went on vacation, and when he came back, we actually doctored up a photo of him, and then we sent it around. And unfortunately, that's in this account, so you're seeing this. That's
pretty funny.
So downloading attachments currently in Hotmail, it takes a bunch of steps to download attachments.
Yeah.
So we made that really easy now. So you're in the reading pane and you have an attachment. You just click on it, and a window opens up, and you get the attachment. And we're still virus scanning them. We're still scanning them for viruses, and if they have a virus, we clean them as possible. But we make it really easy for you to get your attachments.
Right.
And similar to that, photos. These days, people have big cameras, so that you have 5-megapixel photos. And then when you get them, it takes you forever to download them and view them. So Walter and company created this algorithm which actually creates thumbnails for them. And so when we download them, we actually create really good-sized thumbnails. Other mail services have really small ones. We have really good-sized thumbnails.
No, that's not an example of the thumbnail.
No, that's not
a
it.
signature.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was looking for a picture file here. I don't have one.
Okay.
And so we create thumbnails, and then when you click on them, then we download the full file. And that way you can, even if it's a 5-megapixel picture, you'll still be able to see the mail very quickly. And if you need the full thing, then you can go get it.
Very
And
nice.
that's all automatic. So it's
How about offline? You know, because I fly a lot. Is there any offline experience?
Currently, there is no offline experience. We're looking at different ways to do offline experiences. Primarily, it's a web-based product,
Yep.
so that's our main focus. And
Is there an API?
There's no API available as yet,
Okay.
and so we've bounced the idea around of building APIs to make Hotmail accessible. But as of right now, the primary consumer of Hotmail is a consumer, and so we didn't decide to take the time to build an API available. There are currently some quasi APIs available that Outlook uses to access Hotmail when you use Hotmail plugged into Outlook that other people have written new mail applications and stuff on top of. But we, in the Kahuna release, haven't done any new API work. And, we're always trying to think about, whether it's worth doing. And it's really, yeah, it is. And, all the geeks in all of us want to write APIs and write really cool scripts against your Hotmail account. So I know a lot of people on the team want it, and we just need to figure out what the right way to do it is, and if to do it in that matter.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that we don't, like, people ask us, what are you going to do in the next milestone? And kind of half answer is we don't know, right? It's based on what people tell us to do, and we'll kind of feel it. So it's kind of an interesting challenge for us, because before we would kind of know, okay, this is the 1 year plan, and we're going to do these features here and these features there. But the interesting thing now is that we don't know, right? We don't know what we're going to do in the next milestone. We have some ideas, but based on customer ideas and input, we're going to figure out as we go what to do in the next milestone.
Right. Now, you guys were talking to me during lunch about the developer methodology here. I heard the word Scrum and Agile.
Yeah, so Microsoft's traditional development methodologies, most people refer to it as waterfall. If people don't know what that means, basically, we typically have a phase where PMs run specs. So for a couple of weeks, they sit in their offices and they have meetings and they write specs. And you have a couple of weeks where you write code, and you have a couple of weeks to write tests. And that can work pretty well. But there are a lot of problems with it. Like, typically you don't find out about problems until you're writing code. And in many cases, you're so far along in the process, it's either too late or too expensive to make significant changes. And sometimes you just have to, another thing is schedules. Scheduling is an art, not a science. So it's impossible to actually have a list of features and say you're going to ship these in 9 months. So what ends up happening is you end up making compromises along the way to get something out the door. And then testing will always find things that you never anticipated, which may be very difficult to fix or you won't get to the next version. So, we tried to figure out, well, there's got to be a way to improve this. And there's Scrum and there's Agile development. There are a couple teams at Microsoft that have...
Now, what is Scrum?
Scrum is one of the oldest Agile forms of development. Okay. And the idea is that you work in these 30-day sprints, and you do your development, your testing, your speccing. Essentially, the team, you push ownership down to the team. The team is responsible for creating everything end to end, and it puts emphasis on completeness. So you complete the entire thing within 30 days. You don't finish just a little part of it that, the PM is working on. And there's a lot of other aspects to Scrum that would take a long time. There's a couple books on it.
Yep. Is there any expert here at Microsoft that would be interesting in an interview, for a future interview? Or?
Yeah, there's I forget his name, there's a development manager in engineering excellence that's given a lot of talks. Bernie, I think's his name. He's given a lot of talks on Scrum. But we took a hybrid approach in Hotmail. So for this milestone that you saw some of the features from, we actually broke Hotmail out into feature teams. So we had an architecture team that Aditya was in charge of driving. We had a UX team that Imran played a big role in. And we had a context team, which one of the other PMs was in charge of. And each of those teams had developers, testers, and PMs. And they actually had 7 weeks. So we had a week of planning, 4 weeks of development. Right now, we're finishing up that part, and we're going to 2 weeks of essentially bug fixing, stabilization. And the idea is every team operates autonomously. They evaluate their own bugs. They evaluate their own tasks. They work with the planning team and the group program manager to essentially take the features that are most important to our customers. So you take the top of the feature list, and you break them out into the different teams, and you sort of do distributed developments. And then in the end, everyone comes back together, and you take a look at your product, and then what we're trying to do is get to the point where we can iterate much more quickly, so we don't have to have 6 months between releases. Our goal is to actually ship everything that we've done in every milestone, every 7 weeks to 8 weeks.
Right.
So that's where we want to get to, and we're sort of just starting on that path right now.
What kind of development frameworks or technologies do you guys use? Do you use C# on the back end, or C++?
Walter can talk a lot to that. Historically, Hotmail has been a C++ product. This is, and Hotmail is, there have been attempts over the years to rewrite and re-architect Hotmail front door, and,
Yep.
and some of them have been in .NET, and none of them have succeeded. This is the first time we've actually managed to pull something like this off. And so Walter can tell you sort of how we're built.
Sure. So our entire front end originally was kind of legacy code in C and C++, but for Kahuna, this next release, what we've done is rewritten the whole thing in C#. So we're now migrated to Whidbey. We're evaluating some of their release candidate builds. We're also driving a lot of bug fixes and sort of as part of Whidbey ship partner. You know, they're not happy unless we're happy.
Right.
So it's been a really great process. A lot of the code we wrote from ground up is designed for the environment where you have large inboxes, you know, you have multi-megabyte attachments. So we take advantage of asynchronous design on the server. Our protocol is kind of optimized for data access. It's the whole, we call it FireAnt. So it's our implementation of Ajax. So we optimize the protocol as well between the server and the browser, as well as the underlying server architecture is kind of all asynchronously programmed.
So how did C# work out for you guys?
C# was
Are
great.
you happy you went to C# instead of stayed with C and C++?
Everybody really likes C#. The speed at which we can develop was you can't quantify it. It's probably not the right thing to do, but it was a lot of fun to design, a lot of fun to program. We found a certain class of problems, such as access violations, were mostly taken care of, and now we're stuck with the hard problems, which we would have encountered anyway, whether we were in managed or unmanaged. But with managed code, an entire class of problems which we would have had to deal with is not there. So in terms of performance, you know, we're gearing up for making sure our product is scalable. The ASP.NET team is obviously very interested. We are a very large distributed application, so they're very interested in our performance and our experiences with
Yeah, you
C#
guys
and
you guys
Mesh.
keep some of the details confidential of your data center. You know how many machines you have, but it's a lot of machines, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's a lot of users, like
We
hundreds of millions
I
of
don't know if
users.
this should be on the tape.
Well, we've said hundreds of millions of
Yeah.
users
No,
before.
we publicly stated we have 2 million active users.
200 million.
200, that's what I said.
Yeah.
No.
I'm losing my voice. It just got lopped off. My brain communicated 200 million to my mouth. We have 200 million active users. We handle something like 30 million peak logins. So
Per day or per hour? Or
yeah,
per day?
we're built to support essentially our peak load, which is, you know, astronomical. So
And C# going to handle this.
Yes, it will.
you know,
Well,
And how do you know this?
because we've
well, it has to. If it
Yeah.
can't, then I mean, when Hotmail was built on Unix, one of the big mission statements was to get it on Windows, and it was a big deal for the IAS team to get Hotmail running on Windows. And I think in order for the .NET framework to be a real world-class development environment and productivity, sort of developer productivity environment for anyone, it should scale from me, who writes like a blog engine in my spare time, to our development team, who's writing quite possibly the largest distributed communication platform on the planet. So to have a development platform that can scale from, you know, a college student to a developer working at Microsoft on some of the biggest and hardest problems, that says a lot about the platform. And I think that, you know, the guys over in DevDiv are super interested in making sure that they can say that, and that, you know, they're very excited about that. So
How do you guys test a system for that kind of load without having that kind of load?
Well, we have to reproduce a subset of the environment in our test labs. So we do have kind of stress clusters, a back end that we can kind of host on a machine. And what we really want to do is just to see how well this thing holds up under heavy load. So we typically have 24, 36, and 72-hour stress runs. And during the time, what we want to see is the memory stable, the requests per second, are they stable, do they drop off? Obviously, if there's a crash, if there's some kind of deadlock or hang. But pretty much, that's kind of our bake time, if you will, and to see how the graphs of these stress runs look. So what we want to look for is stability. We want to make sure the core CLR is rock solid. So those are some of the things that.
And how is it handling that kind of load so far?
Well, we have things to work on,
Okay.
but so far we've been able to scale to kind of where we're at right now. I don't know, 4,000 people.
Wait,
and-
For our beta.
Yeah, 4,000 people are on the beta.
Yeah, our development process is iterative. We're taking an iterative approach to getting from the current beta and just, baby steps essentially to get the current Hotmail code base is 8 years old. It's been optimized over a period of 8 years to be some of the highest performing, live site mail engine code you'll get, right? So starting from scratch with a completely different development setup, you're not going to get to that in a matter of months.
Tell me about some of the problems of converting such a huge customer base to something new. I mean, you guys are going from what a year ago you were at 2 megabytes per user, or when I was starting on it, Hotmail, and now you're giving 2 gigs. That's what, a factor of 100 or 1,000. It's a factor, 1,000.
It's whatever it is, it's a big problem.
So, and you guys had a huge data center, right? And you just don't put more boxes in a data center with with lots of machines, right? So you have a really unique problem of scaling up your users to a larger size, but then you're trying to go to a completely new code base. I mean, how do you?
Basically, we have to rethink the problem, because when you have a 2 meg inbox, you can do certain things like read the entire file because you don't really care. But once you get it into a very, very large 2 gig inbox, your entire problem space has changed, because you can no longer read in your entire file. Sorting and searching, do you really want to sort thousands of messages? Maybe the sorting idea loses its value in a large inbox, and then you need to move on to things like search. So basically the whole problem space kind of changes, and so the way we're built out to originally access the data needs to change. So in conjunction with the way the problem has changed, we switched to a new code base and a new style of programming in C# with our asynchronous back end. And so basically we take on 2 challenges at the same time, and we're forced to rewrite it and rethink how we can access and how we want to manipulate and display so much data. So yeah.
Luckily, we've also had, the problem is also in 2 scopes too. There's 2 effective teams in Hotmail, the front end team and the back end team. So the front end team had the really tough job of tackling, going from 2 megs to 2 gigs, 1 gig, 250 megs. And the front end team, we have a different problem of, now that they're providing this huge data sets for us to access, how do we optimize that? And so that's kind of what, we've actually been lucky. We've been able to have 2 separate teams basically tackle 2 problems and come to convergence here. And so without that, if there was like one set of people trying to chase 2, like you said, 2 gigantic problems, we would have been really in a tough spot, because it's because the 2 teams separated us, we were able to come and individually do what we needed to, basically effectively implement, a 2 gig inbox and an entirely rewritten front end on .NET and C#. Yeah. So it's really convenient that way.
It's a hard problem because customers don't care about scale, right? If you're a Hotmail user, you don't care that you have 200 million neighbors, right? It doesn't matter to you. You want the product to act and behave as if you're the only person who has dedicated access to these resources. So it's, we spend a lot of time worrying about it, but we focus, Imran talks about focusing on the scenarios that customers care about. We look at those first, and we optimize everything that we do around supporting the customer and the sheer number of users we have. The sheer number of users we have supports our business model, which allows us to give you free email, right? So it's definitely a different way to think. A lot of Microsoft products don't worry about having to fund their product. They sell it to customers as a packaged thing, and it sits on your computer, and you're the only person who uses your computer, so you have to worry about a whole different problem space. But building to scale is, Pablo can tell you, our inbound mail system is I can't think of a mail system on the planet that takes in as much email as we do.
Yep.
And that you get to that point over a period of time, in a period of iterating on what you have, and being able to support the increase in volume. And, spam has obviously been. Spam costs us the most amount of money when it comes to inbound mail, because we're processing 90% of what we process is stuff that you don't want to see.
Yeah.
But we still have to treat it the same. It's a first-class citizen, right? A piece of junk is the same as a piece of email. It comes in, it touches a bunch of code, it gets stored on disk, it gets moved around, it gets filed by users, it gets deleted. It's very expensive, but those are things that part of the problem we have to solve.
Yeah. Now we haven't talked about business model yet. You guys are free, right? And you want to sell advertising, right? You're mostly the technical team, but you sort of have to build a system, one, that users like to use, right? And two, that can support advertising in some way. And there's a competitor out the window that I can see that has text ads. Are you guys going to do something like that, or what are you guys thinking on in terms of advertising?
So, advertising is definitely, products that are free are going to have advertising one way or another. I think the interesting thing Google has done is it's created an advertising mechanism that is sort of less intrusive because it's text that's not in your face. So, we're looking at a variety of different things that we can do to ensure that we can continue monetizing users, ensure that,
It's maybe me, sorry.
So we're looking at a variety of different ways you can advertise, but even in building Kahuna, one problem we had to deal with is the fact that today everything's a web page. Every time you do something in Hotmail, we send you a new HTML document. Kahuna is an application that runs in your box, so the advertising can't be delivered the same way. We had to create a new mechanism essentially to make sure that we weren't taking a multi-million-dollar business and turning it into a $1 million business.
Yeah.
You still want to make sure that we have to worry about it because we build everything end to end that has to deal with advertising. So we do think about it. There are people on our team who are primarily focused on looking at better ways to deliver advertising to users, things that improve customer satisfaction on advertising as much as possible. Personally, I don't want to see an ad about dating because I'm married, but I may want to see an ad about gadgets because I love gadgets.
And you are the #1 gadget consumer at Microsoft, right? Well, no, number 2.
And,
There's a few of us.
I take those things. When I do a search for something, I've often found, actually, even on my blog, I typically find that when I read my own stuff and I see ads, it's sometimes stuff that I never would have searched for myself because I already have this thing. But there's interesting data I might be interested in that I don't know about.
Yep.
So there's an amazing amount of opportunity there. It's going to take us a while to not. We have a business today, and we have to make sure that we continue, to grow it. We don't make huge changes to it, but at the same time, we have customer satisfaction. We want to continue to increase that. So we may increase customer satisfaction at the cost of, some advertising model. I think it remains to be seen. We'll find out a lot of stuff like that in the beta.
Yeah.
One of the things we're doing in the beta is we're creating many different versions of Hotmail. So you might have a different experience than I would when I log in. And
Show you that.
yeah, so we're doing these things called flights, which are essentially ways to do different things in the application and measure customer satisfaction, so that we can find out if we remove this advertising banner here, and it improves customer satisfaction in this entire set of users by 10 points. Well, that's real data that we didn't have before.
Right. Are you guys doing any eye track research or user testing, in user labs?
Oh yeah. So that stuff's just basic stuff. We always do that. We always use ability test. We always, do focus groups. We always do customer surveys. We actually built in for Kahuna, for every milestone, we have expectations around improving, internal tracking around. We survey our users, and we expect improvements in how they feel about the product. And we will only ship, certain features when we've improved things a certain amount. So there's a lot more of that going into our development methodologies as well.
Right.
I think to add to that, we actually have a usability test every 10 days. And whatever we've worked on, we put it in there and run it by users. And so one of the things we've done is, in addition to building the product, we've also tried to rethink how we involve customers into the building of the product and using of the product. So some of the things we've done there is there's actually a team blog called spaces.msn.com/members/mail call. And that's where you can go to find information directly from our team to our customers. So that stuff isn't filtered through the marketing or PR. It's actually us talking about the product directly to the customers. And then we also have news groups that beta users post to, and every day we go and look and we see what's going on. And that's how we try to collect customer ideas. We just had a survey done where we got all the ideas and figure out what people like and don't like. And so we're kind of continuing to do that as we go to really figure out what we need to do next.
Yeah. Okay. So we only have a couple minutes of tape left. Do you guys have any RSS capabilities built into this, or are you thinking of also?
Feed capabilities.
Yeah. I'm not going in that argument on video. There's an inside joke. There's a bunch of bloggers are arguing about whether it should be called RSS or feeds. But
So right now we don't have that in the products,
Okay.
but it's on our roadmap.
Yeah.
It's just not clear how we're going to do it, whether it's going to be something we do with Start.com, whether we might just have Start.com appear inside of Hotmail. Those guys are building a great RSS aggregator, so it would be foolish for us to try and recreate all the work they've already done. At the same time, they're building a lot of their stuff on the platform that we helped create last year. So, and Scott Isaacs continues to work on so. I think it's definitely something that we're going to do at some point in the future. It's just a matter of how and when we do it. There's so many things we need to do. I mean, like Imran said, our main focus on this version is speed, safety, security.
Yeah.
And so
another integration would be Instant Messenger, right? The current version of Hotmail has some integration.
that's going to get better in Kahuna. There's a lot more interesting work we're going to do around contacts and IMA. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of neat stuff we're going to be doing.
Or other ideas would be, send this email to my dad, but also put it on my blog,
Yeah,
or
so,
something like that,
uh-huh.
my MSN space, And same thing with photos, right? I email 40 photos to my mom. Why doesn't that go in my MSN space or my Flickr account or whatever?
Yep. Those are all great ideas. They're definitely on the list.
He has his mouth closed. Cool.
We gotta talk about that.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks for spending an hour with me. It's been a lot of fun, and good luck with launch. And I'll be definitely testing it out.
Cool.
Sending you ideas.
Look forward to your feedback.
Thanks for coming down.
Thanks.